So I have a little quick break, and I was so busy over the weekend I didn't get to do any more Nehemiah videos. So I felt to do one now while I'm on a break. And so I got to the part where the people had come against them building the wall, and they actually conspired that they were actually going to attack them while they're working. And so this was made known to the Israelites, and Nehemiah devised a plan that he would have everyone pretty much. They worked with a tool in one hand and a sword strapped on, a tool in one hand, a sword in the other. Basically, they half of them kept guard, and it says they stood on the wall from the rising of the sun until the stars appeared, while half of them were working. And the people who were working worked with a weapon and their tool. And I feel like that's so accurate of the kingdom. Is we're building, and I read the verse in Corinthians where it talks about Paul, as the wise master builder, laid the foundation, and then we're laying on that foundation our works. And it says we're lively stones. And then as we build, we're also doing spiritual warfare. And I feel like it's like the Ephesians 6, put on the whole armor of God, that you may be able to stand in the evil day, and having done all, to stand. And so it's like this defense of like, we're going to not back off what we're doing. We're not going to run away from this thing we're building, and the enemy will come and try to stop us, to stop building, stop us doing what the work of the Lord is. And this whole armor of God is what helps us while we're building to keep building. And then it's like, having done all, to stand therefore, having your loins girt about with truth, having on the breastplate of righteousness, and the helmet of salvation, and the sword of the Spirit. And I'm probably forgetting one, but anyway, it's just, each piece is so vital, and it's all spiritual weapons. It's every piece you can't do without any single piece of the armor. And then of course the feet shod with the preparation of the gospel of peace. And so it's just so pertinent that we're building and we're planting, is in that chapter Paul talks about, but we're also in this warfare mode. And if we don't have either, if it's not gonna go well. And I love how I feel like this is a call to arms and to build for every single person. I feel like God's on the book of Nehemiah, because it talks about the people who were building, and it's everyone. There wasn't anyone who wasn't a part of this work that was going on. It talks about the man and his daughters that were building. I guess he didn't have sons, and he and his daughters were out there working on this one section, and everybody had their section where they were working. And it's so beautiful. And so this attack was foiled, which it came to nothing, because they found out they couldn't surprise them. And I feel like that's so many times in the realm of darkness, because there is a spiritual war going on, and the angels, I believe, are in constant battle with the forces of darkness. And when we aren't taken by surprise, and we aren't caught without our armor, and I forgot the shield of faith. That's definitely an important one. When we are not caught without our armor, he cannot come and devour us. It says, submit yourselves to God, resist the devil, and he will flee. So the enemy doesn't like to attack when we're on the alert and when we know what's going on. He wants to come and pick off the ones who, they're isolated, they don't have armor on, they don't know, they aren't being protected, and he'll come and try to take those people out. But he will not attack whenever there's like this band of an army. It's just like, he will flee, because honestly, he's a coward. A roaring lion is what it's talking about, and the roaring lion's old. He's not one of the young strong lions. And literally it says, resist him and he will flee. He is defeated. He is a defeated foe. and we didn't defeat him. Christ did. And we stand, everything, the armor that has been provided for us, it's everything Christ has done. The shield of faith isn't about my shield of what I can do. It's about what Christ has done. The sword of the Spirit is about the word of God. It's not my word, it's his words in me. The gospel of peace, it's what he's done. Every single aspect of the armor it's not our strength and ability, but when we put it on, we have the full authority, because we are part of the kingdom, to evict him, and he has to run. He does. So I found that just so awesome, because it's needed in this time. And so every person, man, woman, and child is needed and has a part to play in this. And then after they foil that attack, we see that there's this cry that rises up about the oppression that's happening in Israel, and there's great famine and poverty, and the poor have been oppressed, and those who are better off have taken advantage of this and been charging their poor brothers and sisters interest, and basically taking their lands. And they even some of the people had to sell their daughters into slavery to pay off their debts, and they didn't have food. And Nehemiah hears about this, and he said he brings the nobles in and he rebukes them, and they had nothing to say. And so he makes this situation right, and he's like, this is not the fear of God. And I just found it an interesting subject of the fear of God, of actually, when you plead for the cause of the poor and you fight for justice for the poor, and there's injustice happening in Israel, and when he fights for it, he calls it the fear of God. And it kind of made me think of, whenever the Pharisaical system turned the house of prayer into, he said, make not my house of prayer a den of thieves. You've made it a den of thieves. And you see this fear of God kind of in action, of like Jesus operated in the zeal of God. And we see Nehemiah kind of coming into this spirit a little bit of defending the poor, and we see the fear of God come into that. And I hadn't necessarily thought of the fear of God in that way. So in Nehemiah 5:9, it says, also I said, it is not good that you not to walk in the fear of our God, because of the reproach of the heathen and our enemies. So basically, he's like, especially at this time, you should not be doing this because of our enemies. This is not something that's going to help us against our enemies. And he said they literally answered nothing back. And then he's saying, you took advantage of this. You were charging them usury. I have the old King James here, because that's what they had at Walmart in this small Bible. But anyway, usury is just interest, and they were charging them high interest and just taking advantage of the situation. And he's saying, hey, it's time to restore. And so all of them, with one heart and mind, they decide to restore. And I just feel so like a strong implication after witnessing, extreme poverty yesterday. And I'm not saying that anyone's oppressing these people, but there is an oppression in the spirit realm that wants to oppress people in every way they can. And I feel like the restoring is a spiritual thing, of restoring what the enemy has stolen. And I believe that we can do ministry in a way that does preach to the poor. And it says that pure religion and undefiled is to visit the poor and the fatherless, and to keep yourself unspotted from the world. And so that's something that's pure religion and undefiled. And you are walking in the fear of God when you care about the poor. But also when you fight in the spiritual realm and realize this is a spiritual battle, and fight for what has been stolen in the spiritual realm to be restored to them, and that it's a spiritual battle, and to get their shield of faith up, and if they don't know Jesus, to get them saved, and just to fight on their behalf. And then I believe there is an aspect of so much of ministry, or some of ministry, is done where it's on this pay system of if you pay, if you can afford this class, or and it says the gospel needs to be preached to the poor. And I know people do it, and this is not a video about how ministry should be done or any of that. I'm not saying people have to pay bills in ministries just like every other thing, and I'm not gonna go into that, but I'm just saying it is a principle in the Bible of when you preach to those who can't give you back, when you give to the poor and lend to the poor, God pays your bills. God comes and makes that happen. And there's something about preaching to the poor that is just very powerful. And I want to come at it as like from a spiritual standpoint of there's restoring of things. People have been robbed by the enemy, and when we fight for them, we're operating in the fear of the Lord, and it's really beautiful. So everything was restored, and that's so interesting because it's like in the middle of them building this wall, and they stop everything, or I don't know if they stop, but they literally take things to a halt to come and figure out and address this issue. And I think it's an issue that God cares about. He cares about the provision of his people, and that people are being sold and sold into slavery, and they don't have food, and literally everyone was giving back their vineyards and their lands. And it's just this beautiful story of restoration. And that's what I speak, is restoration of things that have been stolen, of people that are in debt, they can't get out, of people that are trying to make it and they can't. And just going, and it's interesting, I was interrupted from my Nehemiah videos right when this one was the next one, to actually unexpectedly be ministering to two families, a lady and then another family, a mom and her son. And they did lose a husband and a dad, and he died pretty young. And just ministering and seeing the extreme poverty, and it was just God that just had us go and minister to them. And it's kind of fresh on my mind, actually, and it's very much in my heart. It's just like taking care of people, because God is my Father and he's taking care of me, and I don't have the means to help these people. I can help them, but I can't fix their situations. I can't find them another place to live, and I can't pay for the whole car to get fixed, but I can do what I can do. And when we all do our part, it's kind of like all of us building a little bit of that wall. And they took time out of building the wall, of building spiritual things, to actually take care of this matter. And it's actually just something that God cares about so much: the fatherless, the poor, the widow, the orphan, those who don't have anyone to defend them and fight for them. And I just see how much of a spiritual battle it is as well. And so I just was wanting to share that about this part of Nehemiah, because I was reading it and I did not correlate that to the fear of the Lord. And that's just so much of what God's heart is. And he gets pretty intense about it. And Nehemiah gets pretty intense about it. And he's operating within that spirit of, we're going to do the right thing here. And it's so interesting that Nehemiah, there was so much poverty in the land, so many poor people, that he never took, for 12 years when he was governor, he never took pay. And I'm not saying it's wrong to take pay or pay in ministry or anything. It says those who live with the gospel, those who preach the gospel should live with the gospel. God made it this way, that those who plow should plow in hope. But when there's extreme poverty, God makes a way. And Nehemiah said he never took the governor's pay, and he talked how much it was and how he could have taken this, and he literally supplied everything and never took any pay because there was so much poverty. And I just found that to be beautiful. And Paul operated that way, and he worked and provided for those in his sphere, and so that nobody would be so the burden he could provide, and there wouldn't be a burden on the people. But everyone is different. Everyone has different callings. Everyone has different people they're ministering to. So I'm not saying that's the right way. Paul himself said that there was set up where those people who preach the gospel can live with the gospel, but God is the provider. And when he knows you're giving and people cannot pay you back, God himself provides for you. And it's really beautiful. God provides really, really well. So we never have to be afraid of giving and reaching out and helping people. And so I just feel like that this is a spiritual aspect. And so I just play Father, just bless everyone. Let this, whatever has been stolen from the enemy, let them be restored sevenfold in the name of Jesus. So I pray a blessing over everyone and hope everyone has a great day.